Thing on yours, the Jaguar coming into the United States. What's wrong with either parity on tariffs, we whack you with 110, or bring them back to zero? The Indian guy comes over here and says, okay, big guy, let's go to zero.
Okay,
and what's wrong with that? Tell me what's wrong with that. What's wrong with that?
I don't think.
What's wrong with that?
I don't think anyone is suggesting that tariffs used very strategically.
I rest my case, Your Honor.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Common Thread. Earlier this week, I caught a wild segment featuring Kevin O'Leary and Batya Ungar-Sargon going head-to-head with Abby Phillip and her CNN crew. And listen, this one was something else. Kevin and Batya actually teamed up to push back against all the half-truths and political spin being thrown around about Trump's tariffs and his trade policies. This next part probably won't shock you. Abby Phillip cut them off nearly every time they tried to make a point. Yeah, every single time. Classic, right? Anyway, let's roll the clip and watch Kevin and Batya absolutely dismantle Abby and the panel's scripted liberal talking points. Let's get into it.
Batya, it seems kind of hard to dispute that if things go the way that they're going now, things are not looking good. Even Republicans are saying that because they're worried. They have to run in 18 months or so.
I think that there are a lot of things we could all agree about were utterly unsustainable in terms of our relationship with China. And the only way to get out of that unsustainable situation was always going to hurt. And so I don't blame Americans for realizing that and recognizing that. But if I could just mention a few of the other things that he's accomplished in the last 100 days that I think we all could agree are good things. Border crossing down to almost zero, the lowest in recorded history. Deportations of gangbangers, 10% global.
Alleged.
What do you mean? There are many that are not alleged.
No, well, when 60 Minutes did their report, it found that 75% of the people that have been sent to El Salvador.
You don't dispute that there were gangbangers deported.
I dispute that the 238 Venezuelans that were sent to SECA in El Salvador all have ties to gangs.
We can debate
they may
that.
all
Let's
have
put that
tattoos.
aside. Let's put that aside.
Is any of that making stuff more affordable?
I'm getting there.
How is that helping?
I'm getting there.
CBS is really credible.
We only got an hour.
Really credible. They don't edit any interviews.
Oh, okay.
They're just
all right.
Everybody edits interviews, Kevin.
They are the wrong.
Shark Tank edits too. Everybody edits.
That's a complete non sequitur, okay? It's unrelated to the conversation. First of all, Trump had his interviews edited by Fox. That issue with CBS is being litigated, but it's not likely to be successful.
I'm glad it's being litigated.
Because editing interviews is allowed in the United States of America, and it wasn't edited deceptively. But anyway, we're moving on because that is not part of the conversation.
If
Continue
I could just
what
get
you were
through
saying.
a few more
Yes.
of these. He got 24 hostages out of Gaza, $1.5 trillion in manufacturing investment committed to the United States, transparency in foreign funding of universities, vocational training, AI training, lowering prescription drugs, the tariffs, which are going a long way towards reorienting our relationship, making us sovereign as a nation in a way that we cannot be with the current relationship with China.
I want to come back to throwing things out that he thinks will make people like him when he can't pay for it and he can't execute on it?
Let's be pragmatic with tariffs and not get emotional about it. They are short-term weaponry. Let's just take India for an example.
You might want to
sure
tell
I can
that
convince all of you
but
this is
Kevin,
good policy.
you might want to tell that to the president. I want to deal in the real world.
Let me answer
because
the question,
in the
okay?
real world, when Donald Trump says, I want to pay for eliminating the income tax with tariffs, that doesn't sound to me like a man who thinks this is just a short-term negotiation.
Why would you think any individual in government that doesn't face an election gives a damn about polls? They don't. He's not facing an election again. It's over. He's done. So let's get back to reality. Let's take tariffs in the context of something everybody can understand. Tata Motors in India makes the Jaguar car, okay? We want to sell an American car in India. They charge us 110% tariffs. We charge them nothing to bring the Jag into the U.S. Why is that fair? Let's just stay focused for 1 second on that. All he's saying in his policy, and I don't want to be about Trump. I don't shill for politicians. I shill for policy. What's wrong with saying to India, hey, India, it's not okay to charge us 110% on our assembled car into your nation when we charge you practically nothing on yours, the Jaguar coming into the United States. What's wrong with either parity on tariffs, we whack you with 110, or bring them back to zero? The Indian guy comes over here and says, okay, big guy, let's go to zero.
Okay,
and what's wrong with that?
go
Tell me
ahead,
what's wrong
go
with that.
ahead.
Shitty
No, I
of you.
don't
What's wrong
think-
with that?
I don't think
What's wrong with that?
I don't think anyone is suggesting that tariffs used very strategically.
I rest my case, Your Honor.
Very strategically are a useful tool. It is the way it's being done, the flip-flopping, the
Oh, you
uncertainty.
don't like the volatility?
The uncertainty that every business owner now has to face when
I
they
want you to get
plan
over
their
volatility.
hiring.
It's only been 100 days.
Tell
Relax.
59% of Americans to get over it. That's the reality.
Tell the poor-
Let it simmer. Let it. Listen,
Okay.
you got to let it simmer. You got to let it work. You got to give it
Okay,
time.
Americans, let it simmer as you give the example
Let it
for a word.
marinate.
Okay, as you cannot even marinate chicken because you can't afford it right now in Trump's America.
That's
Man, Ashley Allison is just out here saying whatever comes to mind today. Like, seriously, you can't afford to marinate chicken because we're living in Trump's America? That's where we're at now? I don't even know what she's trying to say at this point. It's wild how everyone on these panels acts like inflation magically started the day Trump stepped back into the spotlight. I mean, do they not remember how bad it got under Biden? I've been spending $15 to $20 at Taco Bell for lunch since way before Trump even came back. And trust me, it wasn't because of his tariffs. The reality is, inflation didn't just appear out of thin air. It's been an issue for a while, and blaming Trump for prices that were already out of control is just lazy. Honestly, given how disruptive his trade moves were supposed to be, the fact that things have held steady is a win in itself. You'd think the entire economy would have collapsed from the way they talk about it. And yet, here we are. Anyway, let's jump back into it.
do a tariffs on
as we
motor.
give examples of Jaguars, how many people making under $200,000 can even buy a Jaguar?
What does that
We're
have
talking,
to do? Wait, listen,
what does it have to do? We're
I
talking
gave you an
about
example, and you tell
Jaguars
me why that's
manufactured
wrong.
in India.
What's
They're
wrong
owned
with
by
what I...
Tata, which is an Indian company, but are Jaguars manufactured in India?
Tata Motors,
Is owned by an Indian.
yes. So get
entrepreneur.
over it. It's a fact.
But they're not manufactured in India.
Listen, they charge.
How?
They do
Okay,
not
so
let us
if you
ship
are you going to
an
put a tariff
American
on the
car.
company, or are you going to put a
Are you
tariff
okay?
on the cars?
You're okay with them
No, are
charging
you
100%
okay?
on an
But
American car?
Kevin,
Kevin, in the
are they
meantime-
manufactured in India? I haven't looked this up, but are they manufactured in India?
They make them all over the world, as
well-
as American cars companies do too.
Well, look,
But
I mean,
I think you should focus on the fact.
well, no, I mean where we are, but I think we're
put a
focusing
tariff on the
also
Indian guy.
on the question of first of all, it's been 4 weeks. There have been 0 deals. Okay, so again, every day
4 weeks.
we-
Oh my goodness, he couldn't get a deal done in 4 weeks.
Well, Kevin, you know, it was an option for this administration
So
to
you
pursue
need to do
this.
it 24 hours,
It
right?
was an option for this administration to pursue a strategy of deals before slapping tariffs on the whole world. That could have happened
just
too.
suggesting.
Right? And I don't know, and I think, I bet you, I don't know anyone, even people who agree with you about the need to deal with trade barriers, you know, the tariffs and then the non-tariff trade barriers, would disagree that that needs to be addressed. Again, it's how, right?
So, but I
It
think
is the
that
how.
the very thing that he's being criticized for is the thing that worked. If he had come in and very nicely and politely gone to each of these
what
countries
worked? What
and
has
said,
worked?
I'm,
What
tr- I'm, I'm trying to explain. If he had very nicely and calmly and politely gone to each of these countries and said, look, you've been screwing us over, you've been screwing over the American working class for 40 years, and we're not going to take it anymore. Let's sit down and have like a nice conversation. Why won't you, how about you bring down those tariffs? Let's meet halfway
Okay, but
somewhere.
has
They
it
would have said,
worked?
no way. I'll tell you what worked. He picked up a baseball bat, he whacked the stock market, and now they're all sitting there in a state of relief that it's
Okay,
only a
while
10%
Americans
tariff,
are
and they're coming
struggling.
to the table.
Wait, I'm confused.
That's how you know
actually
that it worked.
I'm legitimately confused. So Trump destroying 20% of wealth in the country
way,
over the
all of
last
the losses
4
have
months.
recovered at this
Who
point.
wins
That's
from
not
that?
true.
Who
Of
wins?
course
Who
they
wins?
have.
No,
Let
no,
me
no,
give
no,
you
they
the
have
date
not.
on the
No,
losses.
who wins?
April 3rd was the meltdown. Let me give you the
Hold on,
data.
hold on, Kevin. Don't interrupt me.
I want facts
Who
here.
benefits? Who benefits when the stock market drops and people lose
We
value
have
in both their
70
in both their
countries
investments and
trying
also
now to
in terms
get
of the
a deal.
companies.
So yeah, it's been 4 weeks and we don't have a deal yet. They're working. They're very close to announcing them. India and Vietnam both announced tariffs on China. You think they would have done that if Trump hadn't shown that he was serious about standing up for the American working class
Okay,
and
but
that he doesn't work for Wall Street?
How have the American people benefited is the question that I'm asking in this
$1.5
period
trillion
in this period of time.
manufacturing
Those
committed
are commitments that have not materialized in a
4
single
weeks?
Most of those,
job.
most of those are press releases and pictures with shovels, and then it never happens. And you can go back. That is
That's what happened in the first term.
We have
Can we
seen
go
this
back
movie
to
before.
facts
That
for
is
just a moment?
always
Can we just
true.
talk about facts for a moment? April 3rd was a meltdown based on the tariff announcements. The stock market has recovered 52% of those since then. As we wait to see the outcomes of the India agreement, the EU agreement, the UK agreement, the Swiss agreement, the Thailand agreement, Japanese agreement, Canadian agreement, Mexican agreement. No administration has ever done 60 trade agreements at once. I agree with you.
Yeah.
That's chaotic.
Including
but
this
all
one.
you care
So
about
where-
is 17 deals.
Okay.
Except China. Forget
Listen,
about China's different.
when I say
So honestly, it's no surprise at all that CNN keeps pushing this same doom and gloom storyline about the economy. It's like they're hoping for a collapse, just so they can say, told you so. Meanwhile, the stock market has been climbing for 9 straight days, the strongest streak we've seen in 2 decades. But do they report that? Of course not. They'll wait for one dip and shout, see, we warned you. It's just predictable at this point. And even if things stay solid, they'll spin it and say, well, just wait. The real damage from those tariffs is coming. That way they're never wrong. But here's the thing. The numbers are telling a different story. China's already dropped tariffs on over 130 categories of US products. That's a major win. But if you're watching CNN, you'd probably never hear that. Why? Because if Americans actually knew that Trump's trade pressure was getting results, it might change how they see him, and they can't risk that. And prices? Despite all the hand-wringing, they've stayed pretty level since Trump came back in. CNN analysts kept saying the economy would implode, but unemployment is steady, jobs reports have beat expectations, and the stock market is stronger than they're willing to admit. For all the chaos, it's holding up better than it did under Biden's crew. Honestly, if I were using their logic, I'd be saying we're about to enter the greatest bull market of all time. And it's all thanks to Trump's big bad tariffs. But I'm not here to sell you dreams. I'm just connecting the dots as they are. The real issue is that while I'm making an educated guess based on data, they're pumping out narratives based on fear and spin. So what do you think? Is Trump's trade strategy actually working, or are we just riding momentum? Drop your thoughts below. And hey, if you've stuck around this long, you're one of the real ones. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me today. Never forget, Jesus loves you. I'll see you next time.